Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles market update. Today is the 19th of June, 2024, and I am Gianni DePoce, your host. I'm joined this week by a special guest, Margo Amala, a heliocentric financial astrologer. We're very excited to have her on. Margo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited for you to join us. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Indeed, indeed. So we're going to get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to start off by looking at the Dow Jones. We are on the precipice of Cancer season that begins tomorrow, but we started off this week on Sunday with a square between Venus and Neptune. Then we had Venus move into Cancer, and as I mentioned, tomorrow begins Cancer season. And then the same day we have Sun square Neptune. So what is your take overall on stocks? If you want to look at the NASDAQ too, we can, but let's start off with the Dow. I know you do use a little bit of GAN stuff in your work, right? So I know the solstice is an important time. So what are you looking at in terms of stocks and what's on your radar?
Yeah, so I do. And I've actually been tracking the Dow Jones quite a bit lately. I actually have built an analog using various different techniques that is indicating a divergence in direction sometime by basically July 5th. I'm leaning towards a move up in the Dow into August, maybe mid-August, maybe early September. But, August gets a little bit sticky with all of the aspects going on. Specifically, I've been tracking the divergence on the indexes, on about May, let's see, what was it? May 13th, I think, May 16th, actually. We started to see an index divergence where, the Dow came down, and the NASDAQ and also the Russell as well. And then the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 really took off.
Yeah.
And what I was really tracking this week is the heliocentric trine of Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius and Jupiter at 0 degrees Gemini. So it really made sense and supported kind of that, face ripping off tear that the NASDAQ did on Monday.
Yeah.
And then now we're at 3 standard deviation from the mean, though, on the NASDAQ. So, and on the S&P 500. And, commonly known, things don't, at least indexes, crypto aside, don't stay at 3 standard deviation from the mean for very long, typically.
Of course. Well, coming into this week, I called it a Neptunian week, between the square between Venus and Neptune, and then the Sun and Neptune. And Neptune as a planet, it can lead to paranoia, but it seems like we're getting a bit of irrational exuberance. And we are in the MMA model in a reversal period right now, interestingly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is the high. It could be a high, and it's important to differentiate between that. And I'm glad that you mentioned the possibility for stocks to continue higher into the summer. I think that's important. But we've talked periodically, you and I, and I'm kind of calling this like the sucker phase of the rally. I do think that we'll see some volatility at some point, some significant volatility by the end of the year. And it seems like your model is kind of looking at that going into late summer, early fall. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And, I think if we do continue to see this, the rally go up into August, September, what I'm looking for specifically is a rotation of money, perhaps out of tech, or maybe not out, but more into the Russell and the Dow. And, specifically a stock that interests me that kind of straddles like tech and Russell is Tesla. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking for to trade into the summer. Things that are maybe in a tight range that could break out and keep prices elevated through the rest of the summer.
Well, with respect to Tesla, it's quite interesting because, we have the Uranus transiting through the sign study with the boom bust, and you would think that Gemini rules Tesla given its automobile, nature. But, it's also an artificial intelligence and whatnot. But Jupiter and Gemini has seemed to be pretty good for Tesla. Out of all the Magnificent Seven, it's probably the one that has struggled the most as of late. Not really the strongest trend, but it has made some steps in the right direction. I would agree with that. Now, is there anything from a geocosmic standpoint that you think could really supercharge this stock higher?
Absolutely. Yeah. The Jupiter-Uranus cycle, the synodic cycle, actually has like fantastic results with pivots. Exactly. That was the low. And I've actually tracked that cycle all the way back to the inception of Tesla, the IPO. And while it was within a few degrees of the conjunction at the IPO.
Oh, wow.
every single aspect, even minor aspects, like every harmonic, when it hits like an octile, a septile, a square, a trine, it makes a turn. And so I think this was a really notable bottom here. And so that's really why Tesla kind of has my attention right now.
Fantastic. I'm going to pivot a little bit here and look at interest rates. We'll look at TLT, the long-term treasury ETF. This admittedly has been a bit of a challenge analyzing with respect to some of its long-term cycles. You know, we have to consider the October 2023 low as a potential long-term bottom. And that doesn't mean that interest rates are going back to zero. Far from that. On the contrary, but we could see a rally into summer. What we're looking at, either way, I think that the Jupiter square Saturn signature, that central time band from August of 2024 to June of 2025 is going to be really important, not just for interest rates, but also the Fed. What's your take on what's happening over at the central bank and just monetary policy in general? Do you think we're going to see rate cuts this year? And how does that tie into the bond market?
Yeah, so I'm not actually inclined to think we're going to see rate cuts this year, although it's certainly possible. I think that what they say is, it changes from one meeting to the next, but the consistency is that what they always say is that, we can speculate, but that we're going to make our decision one meeting to the next. So I don't spend a lot of time personally focused on kind of what they're saying, I guess.
I agree. I think that's wise.
Yeah.
It is interesting, however, to note, how the rhetoric kind of changes during periods of Mercury retrograde and just how they seem to really manifest what's happening, geocosmically, in terms of what they're saying. But yeah, I do agree with you that taking their word for it is not a prudent way forward.
Well, and absolutely. And, we have the FOMC on Wednesdays, which are ruled by Mercury, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So especially on Mercury retrograde days.
I feel like Mercury retrograde and FOMC is always a shakeup and a change of direction. So yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at crude oil. I know that is a market you've been watching very closely. So we've had quite the rally coming off that low from June 4th. That was the day that the sun formed a conjunction to Venus. Not, on its face, not really a signature related to the energy market. But as I mentioned earlier, right now we're in a very Neptunian period. And that wasn't that far away. That was about a week after Jupiter, well, maybe a little bit more. But anyways, about a week after Jupiter ingressed into Gemini. So you're a crude oil bull, aren't you? And what are you looking for energy into year end?
Yeah, so I was actually looking for a low around the time that it bottomed based on technicals, actually, because I had a 618 from an ABCD wave that I was watching. And so I actually did get in at the bottom, but I've been looking for a place to enter, take another entry, because I do think we're going up at least where I've tracked is into the end of July. But I was expecting us to have a little bit more of a pullback here that might have been for buying. And now here we are at this, this key resistance level. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, actually, if we kind of came back and formed a little maybe inverse head and shoulders here, is kind of what I've got on my mind's eye. But specifically geocosmically, Neptune declination actually has a just absolutely fantastic correlation with major highs and lows, like weekly and even monthly pivots on crude oil.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what's fascinating is that we're encroaching here on this period where, Saturn and Neptune are going to be turning retrograde, within a short window of time. And what's also interesting is that they're also both reaching peak maximum declination within that same window of time. Wow. So yeah.
With Saturn being in Pisces, that's extra pertinent as well. So
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. How about precious metals? Let's jump over to gold, and we're going to start off with gold, and maybe we'll jump into silver as well. So consolidating near the highs here. Neptune is an interesting planet when it comes to gold in our work over here at MMA. If you see a low within about 10 trading days of a Neptune signature, it can turn out to be pretty important, but we still have that Neptune retrograde set to unfold on July 2nd. So I think we could be starting a new cycle here, and we could get a blow off top. That's kind of my take on precious metals. I think we can get one final rally into the fall before seeing a big sell off. That's how I'm positioned right now. So what's your take on gold and or silver?
Yeah, so I track both, and I trade both a lot. I've been really interested in silver a little bit more lately, and I've been tracking the nodal cycle, the 18.6 year nodal cycle on silver, and I've actually tracked every nodal cycle since the inception of silver futures. And what I've found is that there is a consistent pattern of a move up for the period of time that during this nodal cycle will be from September to November actually, into the transition of when the nodes switch from Aries to Pisces, because that would actually be the completion of the nodal cycle, right? Since the nodes move backwards.
You're right.
Right, where most other planets would ingress Aries, and that would be the completion of 360.
Yeah.
Right. So, so with that in my mind's eye, kind of in the future, if we kind of backwards move to where we are now, I am looking for a bottom. It might be in on silver. I have not been a buyer just yet, because of like specific like daily fluctuations based on both the lunar cycle and the Mercury Earth, or from the from the Earth perspective, it would be the Mercury Sun conjunctions. But specifically right now, what's going on is that we have this the sun about to ingress Cancer. We have Mercury and Venus in Cancer. And what's unique is that from the heliocentric perspective, we also have Venus in Cancer right now, and Mercury is just about to leave Cancer into Leo. But rarely, like the heliocentric inner planets are oftentimes in totally different spots than they are geocentrically. So
but right now they're all in the same spot, more or less.
All in the same spot in Cancer.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And there is a historical pattern of bullish moves up in silver when these planets cluster in Cancer, because on the geocentric chart, if you were to look at it, the sun is at 13 degrees Cancer. So then the moon on the geocentric chart has I think it's 13 or 16 degrees Sagittarius. And so what I'm looking for right now, putting all this together basically, is either the low is in, or we're going to come back down and test the low, which is my preferred choice, around the full moon, and that we would hit a pivot there, and then we would come back up. And so that's what I'm looking for an entry right now, would be as the full moon is in Capricorn on Friday, that we're going to get that low between the Capricorn and Sagittarius, or the Sagittarius and Capricorn moon cycle.
Admittedly, I don't follow heliocentric that much. I know that Ray has done some pretty impressive studies with heliocentric Mercury going through Sagittarius and precious metals. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but just hearing now that you have Mercury and Venus in similar signs as the geocentric, that seems pretty pertinent. And we're just talking freely here, but just as a reminder for viewers, silver is ruled by Cancer, and Leo is rules gold. And so, when you have all these planets concentrated in those signs and you're looking at precious metals, timing for a low, I think it's really powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, of course, we can't go on much longer without talking about cryptocurrencies. Obviously, a lot of people in the community like to know what's going on in Bitcoin or Ethereum. That's usually what we track here. I know some others follow alts, but we just like to focus on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So what is your outlook on Bitcoin and or Ethereum, and any geocosmic catalysts that could send these upward or downward?
Yeah, so I guess I don't have a specific geocosmic catalyst like set out to talk about today. I've really been using levels as we're in this sideways consolidation period. And there's a specific level that I've been using, is the 65,505, which is basically the midline of this. And that's the highest weekly candle close from 2021.
Okay.
And so to me, right now we've daily closed below that, but I would be looking for a weekly close below that to signal kind of greater concern. And then of course we've got the low of this consolidation period, which is like 56,000 something. But I find that Venus cycles rule Bitcoin daily price movement. And so then I do a lot of work with what's called Venus intervals. And so it's just a tracking of the period of time between basically when Venus and the sun or Venus and Earth are the closest. And then when Venus and the Earth are the farthest away, it's the superior inferior conjunction kind of cycle, right?
Wow.
But you can divide that cycle up into periods of time. And what's interesting is that the high back in 2021, there's a lot of, I guess, without going into the weeds of all of it, there is a lot of correlations right now between the first high back in 2021 and this high that is going on right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us come down and break that low. With that said, I also have kind of a bullish bias into the end summer, with at least another push up in the stock market. And I think it's, potentially unlikely that Bitcoin is going to take a massive move down while the stock market is moving up. So
yeah, that seems to be kind of a disparity that needs to be considered. I mean, and really, I suppose it could be possible. And if Bitcoin is, collapsing and stocks are soaring, I think it's kind of a warning sign for stocks like, hey, we're probably going to reverse and follow Bitcoin lower, because it has turned into a really good leading indicator for risk appetite, just for the overall market. Sometimes people say, oh, it's a flight to safety. I don't agree with that. It's not a big enough market to absorb that kind of capital. But I do think that, yeah, it is good to help gauge kind of the sentiment and the speculative fervor for the public, when it comes to markets overall. So very interesting. I do want to get your take on Ethereum, because Ethereum's actually seeing a nice bid here. Markets are closed today, but obviously crypto trades 24/7. And so do you have any preference, Bitcoin over Ethereum or vice versa, or anything
yeah, I
special
do.
about Ethereum?
I prefer Ethereum to Bitcoin bullish. If we're going to hold this level here and move up, I would absolutely prefer to be positioned in Ethereum. And I don't do as much short-term Bitcoin trading as I do in the stock market. I kind of with crypto, I'm more like a buyer, and I hold it for a while. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, that was excellent, Margo. Thank you so much. Anything else on your radar, markets or geocosmics into year end that you think viewers should know about?
I do. I actually have a couple really interesting things in both categories. If we start with geocosmics first, the thing coming up that's really got my attention is the Cancer new moon on July 5th. That is going to be at 14 degrees Cancer, which is going to be on the degree of the ascendant for the New York Stock Exchange. So
isn't that the fixed star Sirius too, isn't it?
I
think so.
Right. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was the ascendant for the New York. I mean, I knew that, but I just didn't connect the two. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So each month when the moon passes 14 degrees Cancer, the S&P 500 makes a strong move, and it has a bullish lean. But that bullish lean is really valid only in uptrends. In downtrends, we can get a strong move to the downside, but it's a little bit more of a wild card on the direction when we're in a downtrend, because it could still go up in the downtrend. So at any rate, I'm looking at that. The other thing that's really interesting is that new moon is at the bending of the nodes. And so, when you get the sun at the bending of the nodes, oftentimes you get unexpected events. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for maybe something unexpected to happen around the Cancer new moon that would lead to probably maybe some good moves in the stock market. I would say the only thing that would be like counter to that is that we've got Saturn going retrograde and reaching peak maximum declination. And honestly, what I see a lot in that is consolidation period. So I think that might be the only argument against that. But and then as far as things that I'm tracking natural gas right now. So I actually just took a position yesterday. It's holding it basically pulled back to the mean. That's also it's the 618 from the last high to low on the daily. And so my bias here would be, the consolidation.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So I liked that entry there. And we got the daily reversal there in. So we'll see. I think it's possible that we get a little bit more tightening up here in this range, because the full moon tends to come down after the full moon into the third quarter moon. And so maybe we come up a little bit, then we come down, we tighten up a little bit more, but I'm ultimately looking for a bull break out of that, with my target being up around the 1.618 extension.
What price is that around?
Hold on real quick.
I can probably draw it real quick here.
Yeah,
So,
I got
oh,
actually. So
that'd be around like what, 24, 25?
24. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Margo, thanks very much for that. Where can our viewers find more about you and your work?
I actually, very exciting, just today launched my own personal website where people can book readings with me of all kinds. We can do personal financial astrology readings, or I even do individual technical analysis with people on their portfolios. So that's kind of fun. My website is just margoamala.com. And then I also have a newsletter that I put out on Patreon that comes out bi-weekly with the new moon and the full moon. And the link to that is through my Twitter profile, or just you can go to Patreon and look for Margo Amala.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this week, Margo. We'll definitely have you back in the future. And that wraps up our weekly market analysis here at MMA Cycles. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Just a couple of brief announcements for viewers. We did just publish the monthly ETF report that will be sent out today. And then on the 30th of June, we will have an options webinar with MMTA student Derek Panaya and Ray. We did just launch the MMA Solar Lunar app that is available for purchase on the App Store through iPhone. And last but certainly not least, we have the Lake Blood Investment Retreat between the 19th of September to the 22nd of September. So that's all for now, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Thank you. Bye.